Growing up as a kid, I remember my dad telling us stories of how he used to have two different Trail 90s over a period of a few years from the mid to late 60s. He ended up selling those after he had joined the Air Force. But fast forward many years, and all those years between when he had those Trail 90s and when my brother and I first got into motorcycle riding, he had actually kept his motorcycle endorsement in effect on his driver's license. Probably he thought at some point he would get another motorcycle again. Well, fast forward many years, and my cousins who lived in Lola, Montana, they had a Yamaha MX-80, and every once in a while we'd take a family trip and go visit them. And one of the years that we went and visited them, my brother and I started riding that little motorcycle, and that was the first exposure we had ever had to any kind of a motorcycle, and really enjoyed it. And then a short time later, probably a few months later, my brother talked my dad into buying him a motorcycle. So that's how I got started in motorcycle riding. And a few months after finding the Trail 70 that he had bought for my brother, then he found another one and bought it for me. And that same seller also happened to have two different Trail 90s, so we ended up getting a package deal. Welcome back to my channel. So tonight we're going to try something a little bit different. So let's go into the back room here. And what is that contraption? That is a 1980s vintage slide projector. I have thousands and thousands of slides because that was my primary method of photography with a 35mm camera. But what we're going to do tonight is an old school slideshow and kind of show you how I progressed through years of motorcycle riding. First thing I'm going to do is cover up this wood background with a white background. And we'll do that in the form of a white sheet. Give this a try, see how it works. It may not give me the desired effect that I want, but we'll give it a shot. That looks better. I got rid of that wrinkle right there. So let's go ahead and get this thing fired up. My first motorcycle was a Trail 70. It was either a 71 or a 72. I cannot remember for sure because it was so long ago. But the only time that I ever was able to do a camp and ride was with my dad and my brother. And this is a picture of my brother. He also had a Trail 70, and then my dad had a Honda Trail 90, also known as a CT90. So this is a picture on the old Milwaukee Railroad grade somewhere between Lake Ketchilas and the Stampede Pass exit along I-90 in Washington State. So the three of us packed up our bikes and in a trailer and then towed the trailer and camped somewhere near Stampede Pass, and then rode the Forest Service road down from Stampede Pass where we were camped to this old railroad grade. And then we attempted to ride the railroad grade out to the snow sheds behind Lake Ketchilas, but we didn't make it very far. Riding between the rails was pretty rough with these little tiny 10-inch tires, but it was just a brutal ride. And then trying to ride alongside the tracks was pretty rough too because the gravel was so loose, and also these big wide fat tires didn't do too well in that railroad ballast. And then this would be up high in the mountains looking down over Lost Lake. This was basically the farthest out we rode. We didn't make it very far on the railroad grade because it was just too rough, so we ended up backtracking and then got on to the main road and rode up into the mountains. And this is the only photo I have of that motorcycle. So that's my brother on the left and that's me on the right. My brother's Trail 70 was sort of the candy apple red, and mine was a metallic yellowish green color. I ended up having that Trail 70 for probably about, I don't remember for sure, somewhere between 2 and 3 years. and then I sold it. And then I still had a passion for motorcycling as I got older. But fast forward a few years and I ended up buying a blown up Honda XL 250R. Didn't have the means to get that engine rebuilt. Money was pretty tight back then. I was in the Air Force at the time. Didn't make a whole lot of money, so I ended up selling it probably about a year and a half later after finding out how much it was going to cost to get the motor rebuilt. And then let's fast forward to this photo. This is a picture of my brother and I on our brand new Suzuki DR350 SEs. The SE was the dual sport model and the E represented electric start. So we bought these on a Saturday and this is the following Sunday out riding under the power lines. That was my 1987 S10 Blazer that I had for quite a few years, and I actually towed motorcycles all over Washington and Oregon with that Blazer. It had probably been about 15 plus years since I had been on a motorcycle, so I totally had no clue what I was doing. And that's me in the photo. And there's my brother right there. And this was our very first dual sport event. This was the Mount Pilchuck dual sport event held just a little bit east of Gold Bar. We're right down off the highway, parked fairly close to where a river crossed under the highway, under Highway 2. This was put on by the Stump Jumpers Motorcycle Club. This was back in the days when Suzuki and the AMA had a big dual sport series all over the country. And this was a 2-day event. And there used to be reps from Suzuki that would travel around the country and attend all of these rides. I think I see one of them right here. He traveled around in a box van. His name was Mark Hyde. Somebody just to the left of him is wearing a Suzuki shirt, so he may have been from Suzuki as well. And then over on that must be my DR350, and there's the trailer with my brother's truck, and then there's my Wells Cargo trailer. That's Spada Lake. That dual sport ride pretty much kicked my tail riding all day. That's the first time I had ridden all day. And we didn't camp at where the event took place. We camped further up the highway. So I slept in that morning, and then we trailered the bikes up to the top of Stevens Pass, found the old Great Northern Railroad railbed, which was back down the west side of Stevens Pass. You actually access a road, the old highway, right at the summit of Stevens Pass. And then I believe before the tunnel existed, the original Cascade Tunnel, the highway was comprised of the old railroad bed that used to go up over Stevens Pass. And then when the Cascade Tunnel was built, the first one, the railroad grade over the pass was abandoned, and then eventually that turned into a highway. And it took a lot of creative sleuthing to try to find out where the railroad grade was, and we found it right off the old highway. This was long before this route got turned into a hiking trail, so it was very obscure and tricky to find. And we rode through several of these old concrete snow sheds. My riding gear back then used to just consist of a t-shirt, generally a long sleeve insulated flannel shirt, and then a jacket over the top of that. And that's exactly what I was wearing there. And there is the old Cascade Tunnel. So a few weeks later, my brother and I rode up to Paradise at Mount Rainier. The following summer, we started to do a little bit of camping and motorcycling, where we'd load up our bikes in our trailers and along with our camping gear, and then go camping and set up a base camp and do riding, usually 2 or 3 days. And here's a few pictures of some of those trips. I have thousands and thousands more slides of various rides and many, many years of motorcycling, as well as some digital photos when I finally transitioned to digital. But if you'd like to see more of this type of video / slideshow, post a comment and down below, let me know what you think. With it being winter in Washington, it's pretty much impossible to do any riding, so it's impossible to do any motovlog style videos where it's actually a video.